Begin by selecting the text tool and using the font of your choice. For this video I'll be using Shirkhand Regular as it fits the aesthetic of the effect. Upscale the font size to 180 pt and center it in the middle of the canvas. This is the part where you can type anything you want, but keep in mind that you will not be able to change the text after having created the effect. Add a red stroke to the text and change its weight to 5 pt. Make sure to remove the fill. Next, create a new layer for the background. If you want to stay organized, name your layers accordingly. Select the rectangle tool and cover the entire canvas with a black fill and no stroke. On the layers panel, make sure that this layer is under the text that you just created. Select the gradient tool and add a gradient to the rectangle you just made. To edit that gradient, open the gradient panel under Window, Gradient, or press Ctrl F9 or Command F9 on Mac. Once in the gradient panel, make the center of the gradient a dark gray and the sides pitch black. Make sure that your opacity is set to 100% for each color. Head over to the Effects Gallery under Effects and Effects Gallery in order to add a texture to the background. Under Texture, select the Crack Allure effect and adjust the crack spacing in order to get a concrete looking wall. Crack depth and crack brightness are not as impactful, but feel free to play around with them. Next up is the Shading and Glow effect. Lock the background layer as you won't be editing it anymore, and select the text layer again. Right click on the text and click on Create Outlines. This converts the text into an editable path. The text is currently a stroke, and we want to paint inside of the text, so head over to Object, Path, and Outline Stroke. Now we have a filled path rather than a stroke. Since we don't want to paint outside of the text, you can use the Draw Inside utility. With the Direct Select tool, click inside the letter you'd like to draw on, and then click on the Draw Inside button. Now you can click outside to deselect the letter. For the shadow effect, select the brush tool with a stippler brush, which adds more texture and randomness to the effect. Set the stroke to black, and make sure that there is no fill. Set the opacity to about 30% and the stroke size to 3 pt. Adjust the stroke size if you need more detail, or if the brush is too small for the text. Use a brush to create random patches of darkness across the letters. This will give the illusion of having uneven lighting across the text. You will have to repeat this process for each individual letter, as the Draw Inside function doesn't work on multiple paths at a time. Every time you move to a new letter, make sure that the stroke settings are correct and that you are not selecting the path. I've gone ahead and repeated the same process, and as you can see, the effect is starting to take shape, but it still needs to look more like a glowing light. For the glow effect, lock the text path and once again select the brush tool. Stippler brush, about 30% opacity and 3 pt stroke size. For the color, use a light pinkish red that will be brighter than the RGB red we use for the text. Here we won't have to use the Draw Inside utility, since we want the glow to protrude outside of the text. Trace a general outline of each letter with a brush. Once you've done this to each letter, make sure everything else is locked, and using the Select tool, select all the strokes you just made, and right-click and group. Now, select this group and move it under the text. If the glow is too bright, select the group and go to the Properties panel where you can lower the opacity once again. At this point we're almost done. All it needs is a broader and less intense glow. Select the Ellipse tool and make an ellipse that envelops the text. Make the fill a similar color to the glow you just made, and move it under the text and glow on the Layers panel. Set the opacity down to 6%. Go to Effects, Blur, and Gaussian Blur, and add a Gaussian blur of about 10. Click the preview box so you can preview the amount of blur. Once you're satisfied, hit apply and your neon text effect is done. This effect is quite simple but very effective. It doesn't have to be limited to text. You can use it on shapes or make it different colors as I have done here. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Feel free to leave suggestions in the comments for future videos. Also, please leave a like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing with my channel. I'm only starting out, so your support will be very much appreciated. Anyways, that's all I have. Goodbye and thank you very much for watching.